Welcome back to the 1814 campaign, guys, and what an amazing or exciting turn. We had 2 battles, quite a few casualties, and some interesting points that happened, so let's find out what happened. If you haven't already, do please like and subscribe. Also go and check us out on Facebook so you can always be kept updated on when new videos are coming out, and you can also share what you're working on. So for the campaign, we're using my own rule set. It's called Beggars and Scoundrels. You can go and purchase it on my Ko-fi channel. The link is in the description. So, for those of you that aren't aware where the 1814 campaign is set, it's set in France itself. So as far as movement this turn, we had the French in the south basically occupying both of the riverbanks to prevent the coalition from pushing across. In the centre, coalition forces moved up, whilst the French kind of held in the centre position, and in the east the Prussians and Russians were able to combine at the river crossing. The Prussians were being pursued by the French, again took quite bad casualties, but did manage to evade overall and managed to now link up with the Russians. So our battle this time is the flight of the Prussian First Corps, so basically a carry on from last time. Prussians have 2 infantry, 1 cavalry, 2 light infantry, and 2 artillery pieces. The French coming on are their 2 corps, 2 infantry per corps, 1 cavalry per corps, and 1 artillery piece. So the Prussians are outnumbered approximately 2 to 1, but who's counting?
Okay, so deployments with the Prussians trying to flee. We've got the French forces deployed, and then basically 2 movements worth of distance in, we've got the Prussians. Prussians have been able to deploy wherever they wanted across the width, and based off of the way the French came on, they've gone for this side. They're going to be slowed by going cross country versus the road, but the distance for the French to have to travel to catch up with them might just give them the edge that they need. So turn 1 saw the Prussians starting to make their advance. They got a couple of forced marches in, or quick marches in, but not as much as they would have liked. Same for the French, they've started their advance. Some troops managed to get a good distance, like the Lancers. Others are slowed a little bit. So at the end of turn 3, the Prussians have made it to the wood, but they have started to slow down as they're trying to make their way through. The French dragoons are making good progress across the centre, and their lancers, who've been able to march down the road and have been quick marching the whole way, have made very good progress. Luckily for the Prussians, the French infantry are still way behind. So during the movement phase, the French dragoons had advanced to try and cut off the Prussian retreat, but then out from the shadows came the Lancers, who have now charged the rear of the French dragoons. So during the melee, the Lancers inflicted more casualties on the French, which led to the French breaking. I tried to regain the order of the Lancers, but they got too carried away in their victory and so are still in hot pursuit. So at the end of turn 5, the French dragoons were ridden down by the Prussian lancers. However, having suffered quite considerable losses, the lancers themselves have broken and so are trying to extricate themselves from the field as fast as possible. The French lancers are moving in, and everyone else is on the home straight with the first artillery piece off the board.
Your lancers and your light.
Yeah. So on the Prussian movement, they attempted quick march orders, and out of 5 orders sent, only 2 of the units, this infantry regiment, moved. However, they were 1 centimetre short from getting off the board, and the 2nd infantry regiment from the rear managed to catch up. On this side, the light infantry are kind of sacrificing themselves, and they've drawn the lancers in on themselves. So in the melee, the French lancers closed in on the broken Prussian lancers and the light infantry, and took a few casualties as they closed in, but really it was a foregone conclusion. They rode down the Prussian lancers and their light infantry, although Ney did take a wound. Only a minor wound, but he did take a wound. So, Pyrrhic victories for the Prussians, who may get their troops off this turn. So this turn saw the Prussians get their 1st Infantry Regiment off. The rest weren't quite there, so Blucher issued 5 orders to the commanders to try and get them to quick march. Of those 5, only 1 got through, which went to the artillery piece, so the 2nd gun is off. The French have closed in. There are a few long-range artillery shots, but really it's going to come down to next turn. Whoever gets the initiative escapes or catches the other side. So at the end of the game, the final turn, turn 8, the Prussians, on a roll of a 3, managed to get the initiative over the French on a 1, and with that, using quick march orders, they were able to get their troops from the field. Very close. This turn for the orders, or options so to speak, I'm just trying something a little bit different. I've decided I'm going to try and divide the battlefield up into the east, the west or southwest, and central, and then I'll try and give 3 options for each different area, rather than one giant battle plan. This way the different sort of corps could potentially all have differing options and orders. So starting in the south, the first option for the French is both of their corps to withdraw sort of horizontally straight back to the next river crossing. Could work, could not, but hey, it's one option. Option 2 sees a withdrawal in 2 different directions. So the reserve corps in the south go straight, and the guard move north. That way they'll be able to control those river crossings, but also potentially link up with the troops in the centre. Option 3 is just to hold where they are. At the moment they're tying up coalition forces. It's going to be very hard for the coalition to cross those rivers in sort of dug in French positions, so maybe they just stay. And option 4 is for both corps to sort of head in that northerly direction, so that again they're ready to link up with the central French forces should they be needed. Although that option would potentially leave a southern thrust for the coalition to head towards Paris, but that's going to take them several turns. Central option number 1 is for both the central forces to just advance as quickly as possible, converge and try and fall upon the coalition as they're strung out on the march. And if they can win a few battles there and break that centre, the whole campaign is up for grabs. Option 2 is just for the central forces to withdraw along their supply lines, moving back towards Paris, staying in that central position and awaiting reinforcements, and also waiting to see what the coalition do next turn. Option 3, they just hold exactly where they are, no change. And then our easterly forces, option 1 is just, now that the enemy have got into a defensive position, is just for them to withdraw as fast as they can and get back to those sort of central troops so that the French armies can start to combine. They've done a pretty good job pursuing and just sort of whittling down the Prussians. Option 2 is for them to just go on the offensive and attack. They've got the enemy there, the Prussians are weakened. At this stage the 2 French corps do have a slight superiority in numbers, so perhaps they go for it and try and break the enemy. And option 3 is a half withdrawal back to a defensive position of their own, where that way they can next turn decide what they do next. Do they move into a more central position? Do the Prussians and the Russians split up and then they can fall on them individually? Just gives us options. Then we come to the options for the Allies. So again, starting in the west, option 1 would see 2 of their corps carry on the attack sort of in the centre or the northern westerly position, and then they send 1 of the additional Austrian corps south to join up with the Prussians, and then 2 corps will attack in the south and 2 in the sort of centre. Option 2 would be for either 1 or 2 of the additional corps to move south to join up with the Prussians, and then they'll have an overwhelming number who can try and cross against the reserve corps,
where they would outnumber them and should be able to push through, whilst leaving one corps to defend against any guard attacks. Next option would see one or two of the corps head to the centre to join up with the central corps, which are moving in a central direction. First option for the central forces is to try and engage the French, so all the corps to kind of move up those central roads and try and catch the French forces wherever they can find them, basically. Option 2 is to again carry on, but this time try and take the central ground. That way they can cut the French off from their supply lines. However, if there's an option to engage the enemy, to take it. Option 3 would be for the central forces to move over into the east so that we can try and trap those isolated 2 French corps, cut off their supplies and then try and destroy them. And option 4 would be for the corps, either 2 of them or all 3 of them, to advance to the south to join up with our forces down there, and again that way, overwhelming numbers, we can fall upon the guard and that reserve corps and try and destroy them. And then for the easterly forces, option 1 is just for all forces to now counter-attack, counter-march, however you want to phrase it, but to go after the French. We've got numbers now, we've got the reinforcements coming up, so we just go after them. Option 2 would be that we leave a small sort of garrison at that river crossing, and the rest of the troops try and march in, sort of on the inside of the river, and try and cut the French off from their line of retreat. And option 4 would be for those troops to stay put. When we do the live, everyone will be able to decide what the reinforcements do, but the 2 Prussian and Russian corps will just hold where they are and await the French to make the decision on whether they're going to attack or withdraw. So, let me know what you think about the new idea of having sort of the breakdowns of each of the different areas, giving everyone a lot more options. Maybe it's something we carry on doing if you think it's good. Maybe you think it's too much time and too much effort, in which case we won't. But you let me know what you want to do. But as I said last time, if you're enjoying the campaign, if you want to get your hands on it, head over to the coffee channel where you can pick up the rules which come with the campaign itself. Then you can fight it out either as we play along or just on yourself to see how you do separately. But anyway, till next time guys, I hope you take care.